Surely there's not going to be some incestuous subplot. Hello mortals, I am the booktube goddess, zapping and blessing books so you don't have to. I have also created the game Shelve It or Shove It, the completely superficial game where you pick books based on their cover. Completely superficial.
Doesn't that sound fun?
One of the first books I picked was The First Girl Child by Amy Harmon. Doesn't it look cool? The black embossed cover and the slash of red blood. This is one of the worst books I have ever read. I was really pushing myself to read it because I know I picked it for this Shelve It or Shove It game, but I DNF'd it about 80% of the way in. However, I knew if I was going to give it a review that I was going to give it a bad review and I was going to zap it. And I felt guilty about giving a bad review without finishing the novel. So I picked it back up and I pushed myself to read it through to the end. So who is Amy Harmon? When I chose this book under Shelve It or Shove It, I looked at some of the works by this author and I thought I facetiously said, oh, maybe she's a Christian romance writer because I saw some titles that looked very Christian, like Law of Moses, and I saw some books that were definitely romance books. Well, I thought I was being facetious, but when I looked in the jacket of her other works in the Kindle version I had, there was a list of books that she wrote under inspirational romance. Now, I've never heard of inspirational romance as a category, so I am assuming she is a Christian romance novelist, or at least that is one of her specialties. Now, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against Christian writers. You know, I love me some C.S. Lewis. I love the Chronicles of Narnia, obviously has Christian themes, as does his space trilogy. But oh boy, this novel, I don't know where to begin. By the way, there are going to be spoilers in this novel. I want you to know that going in. I have never done spoilers before, but I don't really know how to do this review without giving up some spoilers. If you want to read this novel, I suggest shutting this review down now, or if you really love this author and plan to read it, don't watch this review. Just don't watch it. This review is not for you. This book wasn't for me. Just letting you know up front. Let's start with the setting. The novel takes place on an island shaped like the Star of David. The people on this island worship Norse gods, Odin, Thor, that pantheon. But the main patron of this island is a fictional son of Odin named Salok, and that is also the name of the island. There are priests of Salok who use rune magic, which is also blood magic. In other words, they cut themselves and they bleed onto the runes to activate them. So we have pagan gods, we have blood magic. I am kind of relieved this is not going to be an in-your-face Christian novel. Let me just get this out of the way so I don't have to talk about this again. This is going to be the summation of all the Christian elements in this novel. And major spoilers. Again, I don't suggest you read this, but if you want to read it, skip this video. We find out that long ago the people of Salok used to practice human sacrifice, but then one of their kings went away on some quest or journey, and when he returned, he was taught the teachings of Jesus Christ, and he had a copy of the Bible. And yes, the words Jesus Christ and Bible are in this novel. But the Bible is kept by the priests of Salok and it's hidden away. We learn later in the book, and this is the big spoiler, that when the king returned from his travels, he brought with him a priest of Christ. And that priest was the founder of the priests of Salok. So the priests of Salok, I guess, are a secret Christian cult. I really don't understand why they have to keep it secret and why they have to pretend to worship Odin, or if they have some type of religious philosophy that encompasses both Odin and Christianity. I don't know. It's never explained. So there is a big Christian influence in this novel, but it pops up sporadically and it's kind of
weird.
But let's move on to the world building. When I think of Norse gods, I think of Vikings and I think of lodges and chieftains. And when you start reading this novel, you kind of get that picture in your mind. What do you think? If you opened a story about a people that worship the Norse gods, what would come to mind for you? Anyway, I kind of had a preconceived notion of Nordic barbarian tribes. So I was a little surprised to see that in the center of this island, there's a king that controls all the tribes. Each spoke on the island, again, it's a six-pointed star, has a tribe. And in the center is a king. And then it's very medieval. He lives in a castle, and the priests have a domed temple next to the castle. So I get a lot of medieval vibes from it. Maybe it's just me, but I was never quite certain about this world. I don't believe the world building was that successful insofar as she was using elements that we're familiar with, Norse, Christians, castles, chieftains, tribes, all these different terms just was a mishmash to me. Nothing seemed to gel as a clear world view, in my opinion. Now, again, there are 6 tribes. There's a tribe in each of the spokes, and in the center there is a castle with a king. And each tribe has an animal totem, like bear or wolf or eagle. And everyone in the tribe, their first name begins with the same letter, like D or B or A. It's convenient. You know, you see a character's name, Baylock, you know he's in the B tribe and he worships bears. While it's convenient, it's also a little too pat, if you know what I mean. Okay, so let's talk about the plot. The priests do blood magic, as I said, and the priests are all men, they're all male. But a woman named Desdemona picks up a little blood magic and she curses the island. Can we think about that for a minute? The woman who learns about blood magic curses an island. And the curse is that no girl child will be born on this island. Why does she do this? Because she was spurned by a man. And she was impregnated by that man, and she made this curse as she was dying during childbirth. So Desdemona, she has a brother named Dagmar, and he sees his sister die. Oh, and Dagmar is a priest. And he sees his sister die, and he sees her curse the island and give a blessing to her newly born child. So he takes the child, he keeps a secret that the island is cursed, and he raises the child himself in the priesthood. The child's name is Bayr, B-A-Y-R. He's blessed with superhuman strength. Not Superman level, but definitely superhero level strength. And then we get to flash forward about 7 years. So Bayr is 7 years old, and the old king dies, and a new king is chosen. And the new king is Banrud. And Banrud, notice he has the same name, or same letter at the beginning of his name, B, as Bayr. Banrud is the father of Bayr, and he manipulates events so he becomes king. He becomes king by stealing a girl child that was just given birth to by a slave woman who is an albino, and they call her Ghost. And Ghost had conceived the child outside of the island. Now, very quickly, since no women children were being born, the men of the tribes were raiding nearby countries in order to steal women. So Banrud has a girl child, and his wife just gave birth to a stillborn boy, but he switched the babies, and the wife thinks she gave birth to a girl child. And everyone thinks the curse is broken, and that's why Banrud becomes king. Now Bayr, who has superhuman strength, by the way, Bayr has a weakness. It keeps him humble. He has a very severe stutter. So he's superhuman, but he has a weakness, which is his stuttering, or I guess communication. So we have a newborn baby, girl child, stolen from her mother, but the new mother thinks that it's hers, or the queen thinks that it's hers, and little 7-year-old Bear saves the queen's life and the child's life at 7 years old. So the queen, recognizing his superhuman strength, kind of adopts Bear, or at least brings him into the castle to serve as her personal bodyguard and the bodyguard to the young baby girl named Alba. She's an A. So we have a baby named Alba, just born, and we have Bear, 7 years old, and he's brought to live with the queen. So basically, they're raised as brother and sister. Now, let's keep in mind that Bear is the king's biological son. Everyone thinks that the king's daughter, Alba, is his biological daughter, and they're raised as siblings. Pretty much. They're pretty much raised as siblings. The queen takes care of both of them. Can you guess where this is going? Can you possibly conceive where this plot is headed, given the setup? If you think, or if you thought like me, oh, surely there's not going to be a gross romance between Alba and Bear. Surely not. They're raised as siblings. Surely they're not going to be some incestuous subplot. Surely these children who think of themselves as brother and sister aren't going to fall in love and then discover they're maybe biologically related and it's a forbidden love. And then the big revelation is that they are not related, so they can have true love and the curse of the island will be broken. Surely that's not going to happen. Wrong, wrong, wrong. They are, of course, soulmates. So how does this romance come to be? When Alba is 7 years old and Bear is 14 years old, Bear leaves the queen dies, and Bear leaves the service of the king, who he knows hates him, and he goes and becomes the chieftain of another tribe, the tribe that starts with a B. And then there's a 10-year gap where Alba and Bear don't meet, but they send each other letters, but they never physically come in contact again. Now this is what really drove me crazy, and I just don't get it. But when they separated, when Alba was 7 and Bear was 14, Alba was in love with Bear and kept the torch lit for 10 years. Let me say this again. This 7-year-old girl was in love with this boy who grew up as her sibling, as her brother. And when he left at age 14, she kept the torch lit for 10 years. Now, can a 7-year-old have a crush on a 14-year-old? Sure. But to keep that flame alive for 10 years, there's something icky about it. I think it's icky. What do you think? Now, when they do finally meet, 10 years later, of course, she is just turning 17. And so she meets this guy she hasn't seen for 10 years, and the first thing she wants to celebrate her 17th birthday are 17 kisses. Of course she does. Oh, and since this is a Christian novel, or since this is an inspirational romance novel, there's no sex in it, but this kissing scene may as well... This kissing scene, you guys, this kissing scene goes on, and it is written like a softcore porn. Only there's nothing going down below the waist, but there is lots of sliding of the tongues and lots of mouth erotica. It is the weirdest erotica that I've ever read. You have tongues darting and dancing and dipping and licking. It's just... And it goes on and on. So I think you know where this book goes from here. They fall in love. Then they think they are biological siblings. The evil king is exposed, and the curse is finally lifted when the truth is revealed and Bear sets the kingdom free of the terrible curse. I hated this book so much. I really do not like that story of the lovers who think that they're siblings. I really am not fond of incest plots, and I don't understand why people keep writing them. Is it because the audience really likes incest plots? I mean, if you like incest plots, maybe you can tell me in the comments below what the appeal is, because I don't get it. Especially if they're raised as siblings. This isn't the case of two strangers coming together and then falling in love and discovering that they could be related. No, this is a boy and a girl raised as siblings who, I guess, fall in love and then discover that they are related when they thought they aren't, and then discover that no, they're really not related. It's just gross. And I don't mean to go on about it. I know there are people that really love these stories. This book and this author has like 4 or 5 stars on Goodreads and Amazon. She is a very popular writer. It's just this writing and this subject matter is not for me. So it is no surprise that the first girl child is zapped. I do not recommend getting this novel unless you're into Christian romance novels about incest. Until next time, may all the books you read be blessed.